Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Who's Dan and Jesse on Talk Football. Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. Normally, a bit of a chilled out sort of stream. We kind of look at things a little bit slower, a little bit less pace. So, this evening stream is going to be discussing the Champions League draw, which is now fully finished. We're going to have a look at all four pots, have our kind of dream one, our nightmare pot, see which ones, who's going to do well, who's not going to do so well, and look at the recent EFL draw, which has just been drawn this last 10 minutes. Some really tasty draws, actually, in that one. It's the last game before the World Cup as well, so it'll be an interesting one to watch. So we're going to bring those up, have a look at them, give our opinions. We want to hear your comments in the chat, who you think's who's done well, who's been unlucky, going to discuss all that kind of stuff. So let us know. Jesse, how are you today, my mate?
Good, man. You?
Really, really good. Excellent. So listen, probably do you want to cover the God, you lead the way. Yes, perfect. We'll do the EFL first. Right.
Yeah,
Top of the shop, the big one.
I'm also not sure that all the fixtures are here, but that's because they would not print it anywhere. So we'll have to.
No. These are the very big ones. I noticed, for example, Brentford isn't on there. They're playing Gillingham as well. That they've got. These are the big draws as they were within the Premier League. And to be honest, some tasty games there. Do you not think?
Oh, definitely. I think that we got plenty of good games. Actually, we kind of noticed in those first 4 or 5 games that were drawn, it was almost all Premier League teams against other ones. City, Chelsea, not with West Ham, but Wolves, Leeds. You had Nottingham, Tottenham, Manchester, obviously United versus Villa, Palace, Newcastle. That was near the end, and Arsenal versus Brighton. Yeah, a lot of very interesting ones. A lot of the teams that you would expect to be winning those at home, which is kind of disappointing just to make it a little bit more spicy. But the way the Premier League's shaping up, it's going to be a good one for sure.
No, 100%. I mean, I have to say, it's nice to see Liverpool actually getting some home draws when it comes to cup games. Last season, we were really, really lucky with draws. I'll admit that we were. We were lucky with, firstly, the teams that we drew, which you need. You do need a little bit of luck when it comes to these competitions. But secondly, also having them at home. And it's nice because there was years when it felt like Liverpool constantly played away. They'd have away games against teams and stuff like that. And it was kind of disappointing because the EFL Cup and the FA Cup, especially the early rounds, is a really good opportunity for fans to get to go and see their team. So these home games are really important, obviously, to these teams. And also they're really important as well to, if it's a lower league team, for example, like Derby, this is a big payday for them. This is a massive payday for them to get Liverpool. Their owners and their players and their fans would have been jumping for joy with being Liverpool at Anfield. They'd have been made up, absolutely made up, because it'll be a full house and it'll be plenty of money in the coffers, and it'll more than likely be on TV.
No, definitely. Yeah, and it does obviously mean a lot for the lower level teams, and being at a stadium like Anfield, they'll get what is it? Is that 50-50 split?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, what normally happens is you get the TV rights, or it depends, because Derby's a League One team, they might not be as kind of open. Some clubs, for example, like if you get a League Two team or even a lower league team, for example, you end up getting like it was a point where they'll give all of the money, like their away allocation and stuff like that, just because it really does help them out. But this is brilliant. Now, this is something I've always been of opinion on. I'm glad they've done away with replays, because in the past, everyone used this big defense of replays as saying, "Oh, well, they're great for the other club. There's loads of money, blah blah blah." I always retorted this with, every club should be financially tiered, so we should have those at the very top and those at the very bottom. And I've always had a feeling that when you have these club competitions, such as the FA Cup or the League Cup, if Man City, say, is drawn against, I'm trying to think of a team, but Derby, we'll use Derby County as an example, they would be financially tiered differently. And I was always of the opinion, to counter that argument, Derby County should be given the option to play at home or play away, whichever financially suits them better. So if they feel that they'd have more money playing at City, they should play at City. But if they feel that they get more money playing at what's it called, the Pride Arena, for them, they should get that option too. So I'm glad that they've allowed to do this. To be honest with you, that now the games are just played. They're played once. They go straight to extra time penalties, and then that's it. So I'm a bigger fan of that one. How do you feel about Villa?
Honestly, I don't think that that's a massive concern. I think United at this point is pretty resigned. Like we typically, I think we got Villa either last year or West Ham maybe last year in the first round. We always get a tough fixture. The fact that it's at home, it doesn't really bother me that much. I'm not saying we'll go through, but the way that we're moving right now, I don't think we need to be focusing on this trophy as much. Not great. Villa's a good team on their day. Lots of talent, but I mean, you give what you're taking. As long as City gets a tough draw, I'm happy. So they got Chelsea at home. So like I really
I can't help but love it. I can't help but love it.
I mean, who do they get? Well, last year they got Wickham or someone, or like Petersborough, or
the Dog and Duck, you name it. They have anybody. They have all the teams. You just think, how do they keep doing it? They keep getting away with it constantly. They get the easiest draws constantly. It feels like they get the easiest draws. And let's be honest, it probably has attributed to how many competitions and trophies they've done well in the FA Cup and the League Cup. They have been lucky. I'd love to see if we could find one day all of their previous kind of, in the last 4 or 5 years, their domestic cup draws, because I can't recall them ever getting a club as big as Chelsea this early on. Like, it just doesn't happen.
No, I can't remember at all. And I honestly, it's nice to see them actually be put to the sword early, because they've always had the excuse of they have the biggest squad in the Premier League, and they always get the easiest games in these competitions. So I don't know. That's really all that I was looking out for. Am I happy with Villa? No, of course I'm not really. But I'll take that on the chin. I think Tottenham got a very favorable draw as far as these competitions go. Tottenham doesn't. I mean, not Tottenham, but Conte doesn't normally do that well.
He doesn't.
And in these competitions,
he's only ever won one domestic trophy anyway in his career. He's won the FA Cup with Chelsea, and that's it. So he's not a cup manager, shall we say? He's a league manager, which is what he's good at. So I mean, this is a favourable draw for Tottenham. Difficult with it being away. They'll be up for this one, Nottingham Forest. This will be a big night. This will be a big night for them. I think they'll be definitely up for this one at Hillsborough. So it'll be an interesting one there. But no, I liked it. I thought it was really good. I thought there was some really nice draws there, because sometimes the League Cup games can be a little bit of a flop, because we've removed some of the ones there, but there's some real lower league sort of games where you've got, like, I believe, Leeds have got Leeds.
But the reason why I'm pulling this up is because
Leeds Wolves, it's a really nice match.
It was the first game of the season that they've already played them. So now they're playing them away from home. That's just what I wanted to take a look at. So it's a little bit of revenge potentially for Wolves there.
No, 100%.
Yeah, so I think that was a feisty game. West Ham, Blackburn. Blackburn haven't looked great. I mean, they haven't looked, obviously, forget history and all that. They haven't looked great in the championship or whatever for years.
I mean, you've got to looking down at Arsenal against Brighton. I mean,
that's a good.
Would you say that Arsenal should be looking to really kind of go deep in one of these competitions? Do you know what I mean? Like, to try and get some silverware in there, because they're obviously flying high at the moment. Do we think they're going to win the league? Well, no, I don't think they will. And that's not even as a Liverpool fan. I just think City are too strong. I don't see them being able to, go from where they were last season to adding a few players this season, and then being able to make that leap to kind of challenge for the title. The EFL Cup and the FA Cup, for Arsenal, Tottenham, I mean, I'd say United, but United's in a little bit of a different boat, but it's a similar one. They're on the lifeboat next to the boat that I'm talking about. They should all be looking at these trophies as being ones to try and get something in the cabinet, because it's been a long while since we've seen these teams lift something, and it's a good opportunity, especially with City and Chelsea playing each other at the same time. I think this is a real good opportunity.
No, I agree. I also think that that's probably one of the tastier fixtures in this. I expect a result from Liverpool. I think United Villa is a good one. City Chelsea is obviously good. I think that this is probably the one that will surprise people. And because I don't really think that Villa coming up trumps against United is much of a surprise. I think that this is probably the one that people will enjoy watching the most, just for sheer competition. I know City versus Chelsea looks like a game, but I'm not super convinced by Chelsea at the moment. Obviously, this will be played in December or something.
It gets played
right.
November, the last game before we break for the World Cup.
Okay, so the timing is really weird with all these competitions. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I think that Arsenal, Brighton, United, Villa, and City, Chelsea are probably the most interesting. But I'm really looking at that United, Villa, and Arsenal, Brighton game since it's so late on in the season. I think we'll have evolved our opinions of where these teams are at.
Yeah. There's a lot of football to be played, isn't there, between now and when these games kick off? It's quite funny that we're looking at these games with our heads set, as things are now. But anything can change in the next 6-7 weeks between now and this game being played. So, we could be looking at this one where we're saying Wolves Leeds is like, flip a coin as it stands now. But things could be completely different. If Leeds carry on playing the way they're playing, we're going to be looking at Leeds and thinking, yeah, they should be steamrolling these ones. You know what I mean? They're playing really well at the moment. And then you could say the same for Chelsea City at the moment. City, you'd think, would steamroll the Chelsea. Chelsea have been pretty poor defensively, most certainly defensively very poor recently. However, obviously, that's not what we're used to when it comes to Chelsea. Do we think that they're going to be able to get that system back together and defend in the way that they normally do? Most possibly. It'll depend on what team City play. I think they'll probably go strong. I have an opinion. I think City will want to come back and retain this title, to be honest. I think they'll want to win this one.
Well, yeah, they were embarrassed last year by West Ham. So this might be another one that they won. I also do think that their focus will be on other competitions. I don't know when Champions League starts, but I assume it starts around the same time. And that's going to be
first week of September.
Really? Wait.
Yeah, fifth week commencing the 5th.
Wow. Okay. They might have their hands full then by this point. I'll be honest. As will United, obviously, Tottenham. Anyone who's in Europe is going to be more focused on other competitions at that point. This is there's real potential for some of these teams who aren't in European football, who don't have it, to actually go ahead and win it this year.
No, 100%. Especially if they can take advantage of these, these favourable draws for certain clubs, but unfavourable for others. When you think about it, there's a lot of Premier, as you say. The main one being is the mainly Premier League clubs. Liverpool being probably the only exception there. You haven't got a Premier League club to play. Being in Derby, we've been pretty lucky in that case. Everyone else has got Premier League competition. I mean, just running down that list, I'm saying City, West Ham, Leeds, Spurs, United, Liverpool, Newcastle because they're at home, but that's a close one in my opinion. I still think that's closer than what it looks like. And Arsenal, that would be my picks as to who's going to win those. Like, they're all pretty much favourites, but there will be an upset in there. I'm almost certain of it. There's no way all of those clubs win. If I put that accumulator on today, as in to qualify, there's no way I'd win. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's too early to tell because the competition. I mean, the amount of Premier League teams actually facing Premier League teams, this doesn't normally happen. So, no, if I had to go for it, I'll just give mine real quick. Yeah, City, West Ham. I'm gonna go with my boy Jesse. Leeds, Tottenham. I mean, like, no real logic because that's going to be a tough game, and we don't know where they're going to be at that point in the season. They could have run their legs off and had 5 injuries or 6 injuries by this point is the real thing. But I think Leeds is a better team right now. Then obviously Tottenham. It's a crapshoot, but I think United will look a lot better than they do right now because that's in 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Liverpool, Newcastle, and then you have to give it to Arsenal right now because they just are the better team at this moment in time. So
no, 100%.
Yeah, no, I think as long as the chat doesn't have anything to say, we should go ahead and move on to our Champions League.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if anyone's going to put a pin there in the chat, anyone wants to say anything, we're now going to bring up the 4 pots. This is for the Champions League. It's now all set. All the clubs have come through. We'll just zoom that in slightly, just so a little bit easier for me to read, if you don't mind, mate. Especially that fourth. Yeah,
I think Stelling.
Yeah, that's great, mate. Thanks very much. Right, okay. So, just before we get going, Jesse, just take over 1 second, mate.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, it looks like everything's based off of coefficients as it normally is, but I was surprised with the Russian teams being taken out of it to see just the sheer volume of English and Spanish teams that are actually going to be in pot 2. So you can see the normal pot 1 is going to be Europa League winner and then league winners from across Europe that qualify automatically for the Champions League. But then in pot 2, you start seeing the coefficient kick in. So Spain and England, the 2 top teams based on coefficients for Europe, there's 6 total teams from those leagues, 3 each. And then you see Borussia getting kicked back. That sort of thing. So it's going to be there's going to be some interesting groups this year, basically.
100%. I mean, it's quite interesting because, I mean, I'm what we're going to do is in here, what I'm going to do is going to kind of look through, like dream draws and nightmares. There's some possible dreams and some possible nightmares there.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to take we'll go from pot 1. We'll go from City to Liverpool to Chelsea to Tottenham. Let's just say we do that.
Okay. We'll start with Man City, the only English team.
Then I'll run through the teams that I would want. I'll be City, then you can have Liverpool, and then I'll be Chelsea, and you can be Tottenham. Let's just say.
Okay. All right then.
Yeah, I mean, if
you start with City and do your dream draw and then nightmare draw, go on, that'd be an interesting one. So start with City.
Yeah, so I think honestly, with dream draw for City has to be City Leipzig. I think they dispatch them. Sevilla's a little bit more of a tricky fixture. You don't want Atletico the way they
love playing Leipzig. They love playing Leipzig.
Even Juventus, I'm not sure how they're not really that great right now, but you never know what happens with them. So I think Leipzig is the best possible.
Because that's funny when you talk about that with City, just out of interest, because of the number of English teams that are in there, it's Spurs and Liverpool they can't get.
Mm-hmm. And Chelsea.
So there's 3 teams out of that pot. So they're left with Barca, Juventus, Atletico, Sevilla, and Leipzig. So there's 5 teams out of the 8 there that they can get. Yep. Of which, as you say, Leipzig for me is their dream draw. Their nightmare, I think, is Barca.
Atletico, Barca. I think
Atletico. Yes, they hate Atletico.
And I think that they can do a job. But they were so poor defensively last year without Godin. They lost Godin. They lost a couple others. But I think that they brought in proper midfielders. That took a little while to get bedded in. But I can't remember his name for the life of me. I think they'll be a threat. To a team like City specifically, they'll be a threat. Yeah. So I think Leipzig is the one because Leipzig will want to press. They'll want to do all that nonsense, and they're not going to be able to touch the ball. So I think City, Leipzig. City will want Leipzig. They'll want. I mean, it's tough. I'm not going to give him Napoli. I'm not going to give him any of these guys. Maybe Salzburg, but I'm going to go for Leverkusen because I just don't think Leverkusen plays that style of play either.
No.
And I think they'll give them a lot. I think a lot of the German teams will get wiped the floor with by. Oh wait, you can't have Leverkusen. I'll go for Sporting then because they dispatched them last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they killed Sporting. Absolutely killed them in the round of 16.
Yeah, so like as far as things can go, you can have City, Leipzig, Sporting, and then honestly, it's a crapshoot here. I mean, pick.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Pick one of them, really. Like
any one of those.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. Rangers
nightmares wise, mate.
Yeah.
Just out of think nightmares wise, I would actually say in pot 4, just for the annoyance of it, probably Maccabi Haifa. With it being in Israel.
Would that be? Oh, yeah.
Just the travel, just the whole, you know what I mean? That's the only nightmare I can think of. Is it just being, great, Celtic's up the road, it's in Scotland. Rangers is up the road, it's in Scotland. PSV's a 1-hour flight away in Holland. Copenhagen, Denmark's not exactly far away either. Do you know what I mean? Bruges in Belgium, Marseille, south of France. The only one there that's a bit of a headache is Maccabi Haifa, just for the fact is logistically, it's a long way away for them to travel to and then travel back from.
I also think they'll have some choice words for the city hierarchy, which will translate to the pitch, and they'll be up for it. Like when was the last time that Maccabi Haifa was actually in the Champions League?
A long time ago, mate. The Israeli League used to be a staple in the mid 2000s, but due to the coefficient system, the Israeli League drops quite a far way down. And I believe that the Israeli League has actually benefited from the fact that, of course, we're not seeing the Russians. The reason that Rangers, which is amazing, Rangers and Celtic back in the Champions League. I mean, we are rolling back the clock here, mate. I love all that. That's proper heritage sort of. Two teams who've been European greats, who've gone there and won big trophies in Europe. This is brilliant. I'm made up for them, especially how Rangers last season went to the final of the Europa League. It's kind of the heartbreak of missing out on a guaranteed spot has been kind of eased a little bit through, being there now. It's the amount of money that this is worth to those clubs is amazing, huge.
No, 100%. So we have Maccabi Haifa. We have.
Zagreb,
Rangers, Zagreb, and
Trabzonspor in Turkey could be awkward.
I think Copenhagen went through.
Oh, Copenhagen beat Trabzonspor, did they? Okay.
Well, it was 2-1 on aggregate. They drew 0-0. Yeah.
Right, there you go. Yeah, so Copenhagen, Denmark, not the biggest of issues. Another draw for City tonight. 3-3 leaky. Yeah, this is it. The wheels have come off for Pep already. The wheels are off.
They're going down.
This is it. That's it. 1-2. They've conceded 6 goals in 2 games. The dream's over, Patrick. We're coming for you.
Pathetic.
But yeah, so yeah, that would be my idea of Marseille, of course, are a good club. Of course, footballing wise, are a good team. But do I think they've got enough to cause problems for City? I don't think so. I don't think they'd be good enough.
Judging by what I'm hearing coming out of Marseille, like even with Eric Bailly going there, they're so dead set on getting a second year in Champions League. I think they'll give up Champions League in the group stage
just to get back in it again. I
think it will mean that much to Marseille. And don't get it wrong, Marseille is the biggest club in France.
Huge.
They want to be back up there. If Paris has taken them over, it's only commercially. Like everyone, if you talk to any French player, even the ones who live in Paris, they're all Marseille fans. Everyone's a Marseille fan in France, basically.
Yeah, they will do. They were massive, weren't they? They were massive in the 90s, massive in the early 2000s. PSG are only a recent club, you know what I mean? They were born of the 1970s as an actual club, but when they became something big, of course they were big in the 90s, but they were nowhere near the size of Marseille. Marseille was huge club.
And then Monaco is just they're a little bit like Barcelona in a sense, with less reach, where they are kind of their own private. You know how Monaco is.
Yeah.
It's just the sheer wealth and
principality at the end of the day.
Yeah, really. So it's one of those.
This
is a good question if we want to hop into it before we move on to Liverpool.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Dark horse. Who do I think? Obviously, I'm going to say, for me, I'll always back my boys. Arsenal were most certainly the dark horse of the Champions League, Anthony, 110%. Yeah, they've got a big chance at it this year. See how it gets on. You see, now for me, the dark horse of the Champions League, it's an interesting question because we're looking there. Do I see anybody out of pot 3? No, I don't. I don't see anyone in pot 4. So really our winners is between pot 1 and 2, isn't it? We know this. When we look at pot 1, I think we can quite happily remove AC Milan. I think we can move Porto. I think we can move Frankfurt. I think we can move Ajax. So that leaves us with PSG, Bayern Munich, Man City and Real Madrid. So there's 4 teams in there. We have Liverpool, Chelsea, Barcelona, Juventus. Atletico Madrid won't. Sevilla won't. Spurs won't. And Leipzig won't. So again, we're left with 8 teams out of the top 4. The dark horse for me out of those, it's an interesting one. And I'm going to say it. I'm actually going to say the dark horse is PSG this season.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
And my reasons being their new manager, and I don't want to butcher his name. Jesse, remind me.
Oh, I can't remember who they brought.
Galtier, isn't it?
Galtier.
Yeah, Galtier. They look different. I'm going to be honest. PSG look different. They look like they're scoring goals for fun. They look like they're defensively pretty solid. They have a good team. I'm going to say PSG is a dark horse, which is insanity to talk about a club which has Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe as a front line as being a dark horse. But history dictates that they are an underdog. So for me, this could be the season we see PSG. If they get a nice group and they get a good qualifying run, we could see them in the final. We could see them winning it. And then football's over.
Football is, or for them it is, because they can't do anything else with being in the league they're in. Not PSG. Yes, just for their club's sake. I struggle with thinking they're dark horses, but if they do win it, it will be one of those where people actually consider it that. I'm going to give it to Chelsea. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't think that they can do it. I really don't think they can do it at this moment in time with what they're doing. But they have a track record of just throwing everything else to the wind and just competing for something when they want to, when there's nothing left really. I think Chelsea will be in a situation around January or February where they're fighting for top 4. They might be kind of comfortably in it, but not really.
Yeah,
I think they'll just go for it. I don't see them being strong enough to progress super far in the domestic cups with the teams that they're going to come up against. And I think that Tottenham might get knocked out. I think that you'll see some upsets. But really the only teams that are stronger than Chelsea are Liverpool, Madrid, Real Madrid, obviously, City, Bayern. And I think PSG is stronger than Chelsea by a million miles. Barcelona could be a weird shout because they're in turmoil, but their squad looks really good right now.
The squad does look really good. However, I mean,
I don't trust Xavi. Can I just say Xavi? I don't trust him, and I don't trust Barcelona in general. But I'm just saying.
I watched Barca, as I say. I watched them against Sociedad. They scored in the first minute, conceded 6 minutes later, and then was nothing until the second half. I've also watched them draw 0-0 in the first game. They're a good team, and on their day, I think they do really, really well. The issue being is I'm looking at Chelsea, and I totally agree with you. I think Chelsea, because of Thomas Tuchel, because of what he does, I've always said he is a cup manager, and I'm of the solid belief that is what he is. He is a club manager. He is a cup manager. He is not going to win the league with Chelsea in a decade. 20 years, he still wouldn't win the league with Chelsea. However, if he stayed, they would win many cups. They would win lots of different cups, and the Champions League isn't beyond the realms of possibility. Is it likely? No. But is it possible? Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so Liverpool.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say the one thing was for PSG, I just wanted to kind of throw in a differential there. So that's the reason why I'm saying Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think PSG.
No, it's a really good point. 100%, it's a really, really good point with that. Just because of what they have available on the pitch and what they have available as a manager, those two can come together when it comes to cup competitions. So I completely agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Liverpool. So I'm going to give my kind of dream and nightmare kind of scenarios to Liverpool for tomorrow. So Liverpool dream for me is any one of AC Milan, Porto, Frankfurt, or Ajax. None of those teams really concern me. And the reason I'll say that is because by the time that this all gets going and gets running, the injury crisis will have eased. We will start seeing Liverpool's team being more as to what it would be, beforehand. We can't just compare as to what it is now as to what it will be in a month's time. The situation will have changed, thank God. And then we'll kind of go back to being the way that they are. Nightmare scenario, Real Madrid, I believe will be a nightmare right now. Just because it's not a team that any club really wants in their group. Real Madrid would be a nightmare. Followed up by PSG. I'd hate to play PSG right now.
Yeah, it'd just be proper annoying, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd just be a horrible game. PSG, their fans are well up for it on a Champions League night. Really tough game to play. Just the whole kind of PSG are in town. They're just one of those situations. And then Bayern Munich, and that would be my order of kind of like, as to who are Real Madrid. And the reason I'm saying Bayern Munich is the bottom, because I know Jamie's here, but it'll just because of history dictates they're the team that Liverpool have the least issues with in previous history, in recent history, when it comes to playing. We've done well against Bayern. Could we play well against them this year? Who knows? Obviously every year changes, but just on history's basis, I'm going Madrid, PSG, then Bayern as like the nightmare group. They're the ones I really want to miss. I really want to play kind of any of those right now. Not at the moment. So thankfully we missed pot 2, which is full of horrific teams to play. To be honest with you, I mean there's some horror shows in there. Drop into pot 3. Now, my dream, as in for winning, is Sporting, Benfica, RB Salzburg. None of those are really. I mean, Shakhtar Donetsk, but Donetsk's issue is how far away they are. They're geographically a long way away to go travel to. Not great if you play Wednesday night away, then you have a game Sunday. You miss Thursday, your team doesn't train till Friday, and then you only get one day's football rest, and then you're back into it. So it's a lot of football to play there. Sporting and Benfica, the reason why I'm happy with those is just because of previous history. We do well against Portuguese teams. We seem to beat Porto. We beat Benfica, but we won't be allowed to have them if we obviously don't get Porto in that first group. So that's why it's kind of a variance.
So just real quick. So who are you taking out of those teams that you said from pot 1?
So pot 1, the dream for me, absolutely, is Porto.
So Porto, then you can't take any Portuguese team here.
So I won't be able to take Benfica or Sporting, but then what I will then come into, I'll take Salzburg. I'll play Salzburg. I'll be quite happy with Salzburg. Now, third tier. Now, just for the love of it, I'll do this one at the end anyway. I'll do it at the end. Yeah. So Salzburg would be then the team I would probably take from pot 3 that I'll be happy with. Pot 4, for me, I'm kind of happy with any of those. I'd be happy with Bruges. I wouldn't be concerned about Victoria Pleasant. Bodo Glimt. Bodo Glimt went through against Zagreb.
Zagreb went through.
Yeah. Zagreb went through. Yeah. I wouldn't be too concerned about Zagreb. Copenhagen, quite happy with those. Any of the pot 4, to be honest with you, other than Marseille. Now, Marseille probably is that strongest character in that pot 4, to be honest with you. They're the one that you kind of say, well, I'd rather not have them, to be fair. So they'd be my nightmare, shall we say, but not so much. Now, one final one, this is just slightly different. I'd like, just for the atmosphere, this would be the atmosphere pot. Ajax, Liverpool, Borussia Dortmund, and either Celtic or Rangers. That would be an electric 6 games. All of those matches would be brilliant. They'd be off the chain.
Yeah, no, 110%. Yeah, I honestly, I don't. Pot 4 is so weak this year. It's so weak. Pot 3 is weak. Honestly, I do feel like there's a little bit of the Premier League and the money coming out of there that's making the Champions League weaker and weaker upon each season. But what do you think about Dan's his dream draw, Jamie? So he chose Porto. Who did you choose?
Salzburg.
Oh yeah, because you're in pot 2, Salzburg, and then really anyone but Marseille. Anyone but Marseille, yeah. What do you think about that? Good draw.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the thing about the Champions League draws, guys, over the past 10, 15 years is just because of the way like the qualifiers work and the fact that now, like, you know, barring Liga in Europe's top 4 leagues, you automatically get Champions League football if you finish from like 1st to 4th. And I mean, you're absolutely right, Dan. Like, pot 4 is just so bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just so bad. And, you know, obviously that would be like an ideal draw, but I feel like there's not really many hard draws. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, take my club, for instance. I kind of think the last hard draw we've had in the group stage was 2009, 2010. Well, I think we had like Bordeaux, Juventus, and another team in there. And back in the day, Bordeaux were a really good team.
Yeah, they were.
You know, but yeah, mate, I think that'll be a good ideal draw. You kind of want to, you know, have a relatively okay like group. Like you don't want it where it's too hard, where there's like 2-3 teams that are gonna knock you out. But nor do you want like an easy group where like, let's just say like, you know, you look at, you know, a team like this hypothetical, by the way, like the Victoria Pilsling. Let's just say like, I don't know, like you, because you're in a okay group where like you've got only one team challenging you and you lose them, and you're trying to fight for first. You know, you don't want to lose that game. You know, so yeah, mate. You know,
No,
I think
Do you want to do your nightmare draw? I totally forgot about that, by the way. Dan, sorry. Do you want to do your?
my nightmare draw, as I say, would be Real, PSG, and Bayern Munich in that order as 1, 2, 3. They'd be the 3 I wouldn't want.
Wait, you're scared of us?
No, you're the one. You're actually the one that I would take as in the least of my worries, just through previous history. We have had good results against Bayern Munich, of course. Situations change, but of Real Madrid, we've had horror shows against. PSG's matches have been really tough.
Yeah, don't worry, mate. We've been there. We've been there against Madrid.
Yeah, Bayern Munich is of those, and then of course like Eintracht Frankfurt. I'm happy to play Frankfurt. I've got no concerns about them, but Bayern Munich are the one where for me I'm like, pot 3. I mean, for me, it's got to be Napoli's a horror show, Dortmund's a horror show, and Inter Milan is also a horror show.
Yeah,
and then Marseille,
then Marseille.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think Leverkusen is a good team as well for like Liverpool to play as well. They're a bit of a hit and miss team.
Do you mean good in like in a bad way? Like they could do well against Liverpool, or are you thinking? Like I honestly think Borussia Dortmund's not super strong right now, but I think that's always going to be.
Yeah,
they'll be up for it against Klopp and Liverpool.
It's always going to be a big night, isn't it? Dortmund's always a big night in the Champions League, even if they're not the best. We obviously watched them last season in the Europa League. They were poor. They weren't great at all. They've been a shadow of themselves for a little while now. As to where they were, they're nowhere near as kind of what they were, but they still hold that energy. Do you know what I mean? You know what you're going to get on a Champions League night at the Well, I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce their stadium. Go on, Jamie.
Signa, they're doing a park.
That's the one. That's what it's called.
That one all the way over there. Yeah, the yellow wall and all that. Yeah, no, you don't really want to face them. Let's go ahead and just move on real quick. We'll kill this off and at the very end, Jamie, if you stick around. I want to know your dark horse because we finished up that.
Yeah, that's fine, mate.
Before you hopped in. Chelsea, dream draw. Dream draw here. It gets so much easier when you're talking about pot 2 teams, doesn't it? Because you're actually starting pot 1 and it's just like really what's there. AC Milan is not a pushover. I think that, I mean, I said this about Pioli a season, like last time you guys played them, I think it was last season when you guys played them in the Champions League in the group stage. He didn't have everything set up, but they ended up winning the league anyways. They
it's got to be Porto. They're the weakest, aren't they? By a mile.
Honestly, looking at it, I'd rather get Frankfurt because then that means I can't get Borussia.
I like that. Yeah, that's clever.
Like I'd rather get that because then I can't get Borussia. I don't really want AC Milan over Inter Milan or Napoli. I think that Chelsea can do well against Napoli. Inter, I'm not going to pretend to know what the specimen they are right now, but yeah, I think I'd take Frankfurt, and then we'll go for Salzburg. I think even Shakhtar can be a dangerous team, but they haven't been over the past couple of years. They still win their league constantly because the league is so weak.
I do feel for them though, Jesse, in a sense that the
Russians invaded there.
Yeah, but also like just the way like FIFA have like just mess them around with players being able to suspend their contracts and the amount of money they would have got from player sales. Like, it's sad in a way. You know, I know they don't do normally well in the Champions League, but still, though, that's not right what they've done to them.
No, I agree with you. I think Salzburg is still a game. I mean, Bayern can tell you that. They can do it on their day, but really they're not.
But Liverpool can tell you that as well.
Yeah, they're very naive though. Very naive defensively.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Shakhtar. I'll take Shakhtar for the sake of it, and then give them a transporter. I think Transbizor or whatever however you pronounce it. Give them that.
No, they're out because it's Copenhagen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, now for me, out of those, just as a nightmare draw, I still have to say for difficulty as a football match, it's Marseille. Marseille on a European night, it's going to be jumping. It's going to be full of atmosphere. Them fans are lunatics. They absolutely love it over there, and that's going to be a quality night of football.
They do have players as well.
They do.
They still have Payet. They're getting by. They will have players.
They've got Nuno Tavares, who, by the way, gets 2 goals in 2 games when he plays for them. So, listen, it's not the players' fault, is it? It must be Arsenal's problem. They don't know how to play him. That's all I can say, boys. But now, listen, I mean, for me, the biggest one there, and it's just daft because it's just the way it is. It's Maccabi Haifa away. It's such a long way away for English clubs, to travel all the way to Israel. It just causes a bit of a logistic problem. Because you lose that extra day. You more than likely they won't travel after the evening game against Maccabi Haifa to then come and play, on Sunday. It could cause some issues. You know what I mean? I might be reading too much into it, but it's just a bit of a logistical problem to kind of come up and play against those. So
it would have been better to play Red Star, to be fair, because Red Star got knocked out by them in the playoff.
We watched it. Me and Jesse watched the match. Yeah, absolute nightmare from their number 9. Oh my lord! Yeah. What a finish, though! What a finish for an own goal! Absolutely quality.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous in the 91st minute. I feel for the guy. I feel for the strike because he was a number 9, wasn't he? I absolutely feel for him. Why can't Spurs go deep into the competition as before? In the competition as before. Why can't they? Because I don't think they're going to focus on that. I think they're going to focus on the league. Go ahead and give your thoughts, boys. I need to run for 2 years. So.
My view on it is just Conte's never really done very well in the Champions League. He's not a cup manager. He's not a manager who does well in cups. I mean, just looking theoretically as Tottenham, say for example, as a group that they could get out of those teams there, Spurs playing Madrid, City, Bayern, AC, PSG. They're going to be tough games. I think they'd all be very, very tough matches. I even think Porto potentially could. It's almost, when you look at a club like Tottenham, and this isn't just Tottenham per se, but it's any club that doesn't have lots of European experience, it counts for something. When you've had players who play in the Champions League consistently and a lot, that they're used to playing that extra midweek match, where Tottenham last season did play really, really well, of course. In certain respects, but the problem that they had is that they were 1 week one game a week FC, like Arsenal, and took advantage of that. There will be a drop off. There will cause issues. I mean, this is something which we're going to actually have a little bit of a study on and look at how teams, Arsenal and Spurs, both 2 teams which didn't play a lot of football, to see how that European matches affects. Because Spurs only played in the Europa Conference League, which doesn't really count because they didn't play proper teams most of the time. They just played kids. So this season will be really interesting to see which one is affected more, shall we say, by the Champions League. So play midweek, and then basically it's going to almost be a head-to-head as to, do they both win at the weekend, or does that European match potentially cause, a little bit of drag? Do they get an injury? Is it going to be more kind of, issues with fitness and fatigue and whatnot? Because you're adding an extra 6 matches of football to your season. And you've just got to question. I mean, I'm looking at Arsenal's team. Wonderful. Their 11's great, Jamie. I think you'd agree there. Their 11's brilliant. But when we start kind of going to the bench and say, for example, that those players are getting more minutes and they're playing longer, I'm concerned as to whether or not they might start getting a bit of a burnout. I don't know what you think, mate.
Yeah, mate, I 100% agree, mate. I mean, with both Arsenal and Spurs, I think what's going to be key for them is rotation, but also as well, I just feel like at this moment in time, albeit the window's not over yet, I just got a feeling the reason why I think Spurs, as an example, won't be a dark horse in the Champions League is
Mm.
just simply because, and I'm just purely going off Conte, both at Juventus and Chelsea and Inter Milan, is that when you actually look at all his teams' records after Champions League games, it's not great.
Okay.
I mean, Inter got knocked out of the group stage in that mad group in the 2020-2021 season. They obviously Juventus got knocked out in 2013, but and Galatasaray picked them to second. The most he's got to is like the quarters with Juventus in 2013, where of course we knocked him out.
Yep.
I just think with Conte, Dan, I just think he just got a bit of a mental block when it comes to Europe. It's like similar to Pep at times. He just overthinks it, and he kind of doesn't really take that many risks, shall we say. Whereas in the league, which is bread and butter, he takes load of risks. Look at the game against Chelsea, good example. Switched
Yeah.
from back three to back four, then put Perisic on, then went to back three. Do you know what I mean? Because that's his bread and butter, and that's for Arsenal, mate. Just to obviously, answer your question in that. I think they'll go through a similar thing as well. Albeit with their bench, I just feel like it's going to be a massive downgrade, and I just really think that they're just going to struggle to rotate because the players that they're going to be putting on, are lots of new players such as Vieira. Now how he's going to adapt, especially with coming back from his injury. Where Spurs, at least they've got loads of players that have either got Prem experience or have had a good pre-season, and that's something that Vieira's not had, for example, and a few of Arsenal's players.
They have a terribly weak bench. And
Yeah.
not the show for Arsenal. I think we'll probably do something on Friday as well because the Europa League draw will probably happen Thursday night, but or on Friday actually. But they have a notorious their bench is ass. Like it is ass. It's 100% not good enough for what they need. I actually think that if we get Anthony at United and bring in Casemiro, obviously we still need one more midfielder, but we do have players who can fill in there. You have Bruno, Van de Beek, Eriksen, Fred, even McTominay, and then Casemiro. I think they have a weaker midfield, and I think they have a weaker bench than we do up front, and they definitely have a weaker defense than we have. So
That's it. That's what I was saying before, Jesse. I was just like, when we mentioned it a little while ago, is because both Tottenham and Arsenal were 1 week again, one game a week FC. And I'd love to see that head to head, say, for example, with the Europa League and the Champions League, as to who comes out on top when it comes to performances after the fact, after the matches. So they have a game midweek. Obviously, Arsenal had to play Thursday, which they're already at a bit of a. They're already going to be at a deficit because of that extra day where they don't get the day's rest. The latest that Tottenham will play will be Wednesday or Tuesday, of course. It will be interesting to see as to who's going to be the one who wins that head-to-head. Will Arsenal pick up as many points? Will Spurs pick up as many points? Or will we see them drop points? Will they draw games that we all expect them to win in? Will they lose games where perhaps they probably could have even won that match, based on current form? So I will be really interested to see as to how Europe, as much as every club fan wants Europe, it can also be your worst enemy if you're not ready for it.
110%. And I just want to go finish up the nightmare group for Chelsea.
Yeah, definitely.
As well. You can pick, but I'm just going to go ahead and put in there. It's got to be, oh my goodness. Honestly, Real Madrid, yes. I mean, that is the obvious one, but I think PSG or Bayern could surprise them.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Bayern. I'm going to put Bayern because I know the Champions League final, yada, yada, but Bayern always has performed pretty well against Chelsea. So I'm just going to go ahead and put Bayern in there. Obviously, Chelsea there. Going down the list, what else do you really want? They can't get Bayern or Borussia at that point. We're just going to keep going with the same ones, really. It's got to be Shakhtar or Salzburg. I'm going to go for Shakhtar. And then, no, because we're going for the hardest. Never mind. I'm going to go with Real Madrid because they got to pull Borussia then, and then Marseille. I think that's probably the nightmare group. Yeah,
that'd be horrific.
Yeah, that'd be annoying as hell. What up, Philip? How you doing, man?
Hi, Phil. Thanks for jumping on, man.
I was predicting that Liverpool would go deep in the competition again, but now I'm concerned that we won't get the parachute in the Europa League after the Champions League group stages. That's very pessimistic, but I understand where your concern is coming from. I have a lot of
I wouldn't. I mean, this is it. This is that kind of as things stand, sort of, the worry that we have right now. But what Liverpool's currently going through is temporary. It is a temporary situation. Our injury crisis will be over. Thankfully, the injuries that are long term, the only long term injury that we actually currently have is Oxlade-Chamberlain, who ultimately doesn't play football for Liverpool anyway. So does it really make any difference? Not really. Konate and Jota are apparently both going to be back in training next week, end of the month. So hopefully see those two players back, which will be very, very glad to see. What we can also remember is a certain Mr. Darwin Nunez will be available for the Champions League. Even, and it won't matter anyway, because I don't think our first game is after his final ban anyway, so it doesn't make any odds, but he will be available. We'll have that attacking option. We'll have Jota as an attacking option. Midfield-wise, hopefully Thiago's available mid-September, but yeah, I ain't feeling too... You know what I mean? I don't trust anything with that man, unfortunately. I love watching him play, but every time he kicks a football, it concerns me. It just worries me is that when's his next injury. It's not if, it's when. Naby Keita, I don't want to even talk about him, to be honest with you, because either he is injured, which means for me that's enough evidence to say we need to get rid of him, because if he's injured again, he needs to go. Well, I'm not paying someone to sit on the bench constantly getting injured. We've been more than patient as Liverpool fans with Naby Keita. He had a great season last season, compared to his previous ones. However, again, we start off a season and it's the same thing over and over again. He's injured. The guy gets injured getting out of bed, and we've waited too long with it. Defensive. I mean, so we need to kick up the backside. Liverpool massively need to kick up the arse, and I'm hoping that Bournemouth is that kick up the arse. I'm hoping that the United defeat was the kick up the arse, because one thing, and this is Dan's getting out the big old canister of copium, so I'll jump straight on that one. Liverpool are first and second for big chances created and something else, and some other big thing, first and second, which it was. We're doing everything but put the bloody ball in the back of the net. That's our problem. We're doing everything but actually scoring. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but we're doing all the right things in certain scenarios. Our biggest problem is we're conceding too many big chances, and that is because of our midfield. We have no midfield control, and we have to sort it out. We need a signing, and it isn't reactionary. We need a signing. We need a midfield. I don't know what we're waiting for. We were going for Tchouaméni, remember? Real Madrid came in, offered stupid money, blah, 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 whatever. We were right to leave that deal. But that doesn't mean leave midfielders. That doesn't mean, sack it, we don't need any midfielders, we'll go and get Bellingham next season. We can't stick all them eggs in that basket. We can't. Because if Real Madrid come in there and slap a load more money on the table, we've got no chance. We can't afford the wages that Real Madrid will pay. We won't be able to do it. And we're playing too much of a risk. Because let's say, for example, the scenario, Liverpool doesn't get Bellingham. Then what? Who do we sign then?
Well, that's a nightmare, right? Because it's coming up from Jan-Åger Fjuthoft, who isn't always the best journalist, but when it comes to Dortmund, he played there, and he was the one giving all the content on Jadon Sancho for 2 years straight, and he's saying Madrid are prioritizing Bellingham for next year. I don't know if that's the truth. Dude, there's a very good chance that Bellingham, much like Sancho, will want to come home to England anyways. So I don't know if it's like there might be something there, but it's just one of those little things. It's like it's a little tick in your mind, isn't it? It's just like, Well,
But it is
we need
100%.
like yeah.
You know, right now Liverpool need to have if they were really if they were really like set that this was the plan. I need to hear there's a pre-arrangement, a pre-contract is done.
Yeah.
That's what I need to hear. I need to hear Liverpool have signed Jude Bellingham and he will complete his transfer in 2023. If that doesn't happen, it's meaningless. It's pointless. Is there players out there who can do what Bellingham can do? Absolutely. Is there players who can play better than Bellingham right now? Of course there is. Is there players out there who have the same ceiling as Jude Bellingham? Probably not. He is one of the youngest, kind of most talented. If he can continue on his journey and his path, he's going to be incredible. But we can't stick all our eggs in our basket unless we're absolutely certain that this is done. That's the only way that we could be sticking them in the basket. If something's happened behind the scenes that we don't know, and it is actually done. Because if it isn't done, it means it's not done. And that means Real Madrid are available. And if Real Madrid come in, we're in big trouble. Phil, we need one midfielder at least now. Couldn't agree with you more. And not wait for Bellingham next summer. And I'm not convinced he's worth 100 million. I also couldn't agree with you more on that one. 100 million is an awful lot of money.
Tchouaméni wasn't worth 100 million. The reason why
nowhere near
is because PSG came in and drove up the price. I'm convinced PSG came in out of spite. Or no, because of what La Liga.
It was the Mbappe situation.
It was the Mbappe situation, exactly. And basically, PSG was like, let's just mess with you a little bit more. Let's just poke the bear a little bit more just to prove our point. Like, we're not going to get Tchouaméni. Real Madrid want him. But let's drive that up from 80 million euros to 100 million. And then,
well, I mean, when we were talking about it, when I was mentioning about Tchouaméni, obviously these boys will know to me. I was convinced, as much as many others were, that Tchouaméni was done. Liverpool were going to sign Tchouaméni, and I'll tell you for why that it was done. It was done up until the point that Mbappe decided he wasn't going to Real Madrid.
Yep,
that is when it was done. I wasn't wrong up until the point then. And then I said to these boys, I told them I changed the situation. That as soon as Mbappe stayed, I said there's no way Real Madrid are embarrassed twice in one season. Real Madrid would have gone to 120 million euros. There was no way that they would have been beaten to this signing. They had been embarrassed by Mbappe, which just doesn't happen. Real Madrid don't get embarrassed. It doesn't happen to that club, and it did. So they went for Tchouaméni. They matched our offer. I think we were going for 80 million euros, which was, probably par for the course for, would have been for a young midfield player with, his ceiling. You'd say that was about right. And I'd say that deal was probably sorted. Then the issue was Real Madrid matched it, but then they were going to offer higher wages. And then I said, ultimately, it's not a 50-50, it's a 70-30 to Madrid. He's a European player. He'll want to go to Madrid. And he did. The difference is as Jesse says, as soon as PSG came in to poke the bear and went, we'll offer 100 and something million or whatever. And then all of a sudden the price just went into insanity. The numbers went crazy for a player who isn't going to score goals and isn't going to be a match winner. It just showed us where football is. Players who can do what Bellingham can do. They're out there. They exist for less money. Nicola Barella can do what he can do, but wouldn't cost £100 million. So it's really interesting. I mean, not interesting as a Liverpool fan. It's bloody frustrating, to be totally honest with you, because I just want to see my club make some decisive action and look at what we have. I just saw that bench against Manchester United, and for all the kids that he took, he might as well put me on the bench because they were not getting a game.
No, it was ridiculous, and you can't. I mean, I understand that it's an old trope. You guys have battered us, Anfield and Old Trafford, over the past couple of years, and so you would think, well, you can have some liberties, but at the end of the day, that's not the situation to put in youngsters into, and the wrong midfield overall. Which brings me to this. Obviously, Fabinho might have had a knock or something. Whatever it was, don't care. He wasn't there. So you had Henderson, Milner, aging profiles, and then you have Harvey Elliott, which I'm just saying, for a youngster, I have total confidence in him. I've said he's a baller. I've told Dan that a million times.
He's a good player. He's got a lot of hunger.
But you guys are missing Thiago, which is why I like this comment from Twisted, which is what I was saying earlier on Discord chat. Plug the hole with Tillman. don't just plug the hole, but have a dependable backup for Thiago. He's not Thiago. He'll never be Thiago. He'll never be as good as Thiago. Very few players in the next decade will ever have the ability to play on the ball like Thiago will. But Tielemans, he fills that position, and that's what you guys are missing. You guys have the DM, but you guys don't have someone to tick the ball over, to maintain possession. And when the time is right, split the lines with a pass. Tielemans can do that. He's just a lower profile. He's not as good as Thiago, but that I don't hate it. And like Dan said earlier, I think you were kind of mentioning like 15 to 20 million pounds.
Yeah, on Discord. Sorry, just to give everyone the idea. Me and Jesse talk on Discord when we were watching the Rangers versus PSV match. Yeah. I heard this news about Tielemans. Now, Jesse will tell you from the start, I'm not a big fan of Tielemans. I'm not a fan of his personality. He's not a player who fills me with that confidence that he's going to be down to work, and that's only based on the way that he's been at Leicester. Even though Leicester is obviously a steaming pile at the moment when it comes to its situation it's in. There's a lot of problems going wrong at Leicester. I didn't like the fact that last season that he'd sort of come to terms that he was leaving and kind of down tools. There was a lot of times I was watching Tielemans, he just wasn't working hard. He wasn't doing the things that you'd expect from him. It's okay to not want to be at a club anymore, and it's okay to decide that you're 25 years of age, you feel that you want to be going and playing at bigger clubs and winning competitions and all the rest of it. But the problem is, I need to know if it's the right kind of attitude that we need to see at the club. But if the price was right, if I heard £20 million being quoted, because obviously this is the last opportunity for Leicester to make any money out of Youri Tielemans, because if it closes, he'll leave for a free next season. And that's just bad business. That's terrible business. So if we could get him for say 20 million, 18 million pounds, I don't see the problem. Even with that, it's just someone who's available, and you could kind of sit there and go, this is someone at least I know that is not going to be made of Weetabix like Naby Keita is. We've got Naby Keita and Thiago, two players who were very injury prone, both covering the same position. So there's a chance that both of them are injured at the same time, like we have now. And then what do we play? James Milner. I mean, can I fault James Milner for having bad performances? Not really, because he's 37 years of age. Did he think, or did I think that he would be starting 2 games in a run and playing 90 minutes in both of them? No. Of course I wouldn't. His job was to be around the team, setting an example, being on the bench, doing all that good stuff. He's took a pay cut to be at the club. For me, his job was to sit there like this until the 75th minute for Jurgen to turn around and go, you're giving so-and-so a rest. And then he gets up, comes on, puts a couple of tackles in, gets an obligatory yellow card, and then that's the end of the match. That was his job.
110%. I think we've given probably enough attention to Liverpool in this.
Definitely.
Do you want to take over Tottenham? Dream, and nightmare.
Yeah. Dream for Tottenham. The dream for Tottenham probably would be the one clubs that will come to attack them. I think Porto would be a dream. I know we keep saying Porto, but I think it would be a dream just by the way that they play. They're not going to play deep. They're not going to play defensively. They're going to come and attack. So I'd say Porto would be the number one. The nightmare would be Real. It would be Bayern. It would be PSG. Teams that have got ultimate amounts of firepower up front, who I just think will be too good for them in the long run. Nightmare from pot 3 would be Jamie, who do you think would be a nightmare out of pot 3 for Tottenham?
Is it you or Jesse that controls the screen?
It's Jesse. There he is.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thank you. I just wanted to just scroll down. Nightmare for Tottenham. I'm gonna go with Inter. I feel Simone Inzaghi's high pressing, counter-attacking team will definitely cause them problems. And plus as well, you could say it's an advantage, but with this advantage because Conte will know a lot of the players and the deficiencies. But I feel they'll definitely cause Spurs problems, especially when it comes to counter and the fact that they've got loads of like quality, and abundance in attack. So I would say them personally, mate.
Definitely. And then, of course, the dream out of pot four, is probably, it's any team that's going to come and attack and play attacking football, really, isn't it? To be honest, that's the kind of the dream. So really, any of those Celtic, Rangers would be. I think they'd be comfortable against Bruges. I think again we were probably being quite boring, but unfortunately that pot four is so weak. It would be Marseille. Marseille is just the most difficult of games there for them to play. So yeah, for me that would be the nightmare would be any one of the big teams out of pot one. Then followed up with Inter Milan because they play a style of football that wouldn't suit Tottenham too well. I completely agree with that. A dream out of pot three probably would be someone like Benfica or Sporting, just because they're two teams who will come to play football. But of course, if they've got Porto, they won't be able to get them. So perhaps RB Salzburg would be an okay kind of change in that one.
I have a kind of a weird opinion on this. I think that Bayern Munich will be a mental challenge for Tottenham. I haven't watched a whole lot of Bayern this season yet, Jamie, obviously, because usually it starts around the time when Champions League starts taking over, and I start watching a couple more Bundesliga games when they're playing like on Fridays and Mondays and stuff. But I think that's a seriously tough challenge for Tottenham. I don't know if they get up for this. Get up for a game against Bayern, where Real Madrid, 100% they will. AC Milan, PSG, Port. Then you start going through the teams that we kind of assume are weaker in that first seed. I think that PSG can roll them. I think they'll get up for AC Milan, PSG, and Real Madrid. I think Bayern Munich, they might just roll over. I'll be honest, just because of previous history. They have gone battered every time they play Bayern. In the same way, Arsenal get battered every time they play Bayern. There's a mental block there, I think.
North London's Reds.
That's what you guys say. That's just my 2 cents there. So that's your nightmare, basically?
Yeah, the nightmare would have been those really Marseille, kind of Inter Milan, if they don't get AC Milan, of course, and then probably your Bayern or your Real Madrid, really, and your PSG, those kind of clubs who I just think will have too much firepower for them. I think it's going to be that there's some nightmares there, and the dreams are also not simple. They're not simple sort of, kind of games either. I think for Spurs, it's going to be an interesting one. I just think it's going to be really interesting with the team that they have available to them now. And that brand of football, with them being in the cup competitions, I just don't trust it so much. I think this is going to be an excursion into Europe, a little bit like Marseille, where they'll probably end up in the Europa League and then kind of, I don't see them getting out of the group, shall we say. I think they'll be lucky to get out of the group.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. Kind of actually just, Dan, do you have any opposition to me moving this on to, I want to go ahead and cover whilst we have Jamie here. We'll cover this real quick as well. It'd be interesting if Chelsea was in the same group as Juventus and Lukaku scored against them home and away. It would be, we're in the same group as Juventus. You mean Inter Milan?
Because Inter Milan.
Yeah, I think you mean International. But yeah, no, I would love that. I would absolutely love that for him to bang against them 100%.
That would be brilliant, actually. No, that's the one. We want Chelsea versus Inter Milan. That would be naughty. Could you imagine? That would be naughty. Yeah, do you know what? I want that one just for the banter, just for Lukaku coming back, then giving it this one, giving it that.
I would love like a Real Madrid or like a Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Inter Milan, and then obviously like Marseille, or like even like, I know it sounds crazy, but I've seen some of these teams in pot 4. Club Rouge, not a great team on paper, but they always put up a fight because this is like their cup final. Every game they play against these teams, they tend to show up. So I think like even then they could really do a job. But just moving on to the end, because we do have Jamie here, and I think this gives a good perspective because we've been talking about English teams this entire time. What would you say about Bayern Munich? What is your dream draw? And then we'll move on to your nightmare draw.
My dream draw. I've got to be honest, guys. I kind of don't really mind too much, if I'm being honest, who we get. But obviously, just to answer your question, because I want to be sitting on the fence and getting splinters.
Be doing it.
So my dream draw would probably be Ajax, just simply because like they play a similar style to us, and plus I just want
You
another
can't
team
have
in the
them in the
group.
same group as you.
Yeah,
Oh.
you can't have a pot one. You gotta choose
So
someone
is it pot 2, 3, 4?
2, 3, and 4 for you.
Oh yeah. Sorry, so I don't know what's a pot 1 for. So easy one. Juventus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, no, not Juventus. Barcelona. I wanna play against Lewandowski, man.
Your dream is Barcelona.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
All these men do is just keep talking about buying all the time. So I'm just like, all right then, let's just stop all the talking and let's just get down to business. You know what I mean?
I like it.
But yeah, Barcelona.
No German teams, obviously.
Yeah. Inter.
Really, dude,
Inter is a dream.
You're just going for the hardest group you could possibly.
Your
get.
nightmare's gonna be weird.
And probably Rangers, just simply because it's gonna take a lot of the older Bayern generation back to when Bayern won their first ever European trophy, the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1968, I think it was, when they won it.
For historic times. So explain to me still, because I can kind of get the Rangers one. It will be a good game. And Rangers, I think, I don't think you have to worry too much about someone from pot 4. But why Inter Milan? Why that?
I mean, like I said before, mate. I am kind of giving you answers, but kind of sitting on the fence. Like I said before, mate, we've had constantly so many easy draws in the group stage. I've got to be honest, I can't take on anyone, but the reason why I want Inter is just simply because, like, we've not really played many Italian teams, and like I just want to just see us actually like get challenged by a lot of, attacking teams. Because let's be honest, we've had pretty much an easy start to the season. All 3 of the teams we've played against, Bayern, Leipzig, and the Super Cup, have been teams that have sat back. So I want to see us go against kind of like teams that are going to attack, because Barcelona are going to attack, Inter are going to attack. Even like Rangers are going to put up a fight. Do you know what I mean? Just a bit of a challenge, really.
Fair enough. Well, now that I have no clue, let's just go through it real quick. We got maybe 5-10 minutes to go ahead and spin through these because we got Ant on here as well. Your nightmare, that
nightmare. Oh, what that? I don't want to play in my group.
Yeah.
Is this in part 2?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's actually going to surprise a lot of people, but I'm going to go with Liverpool. My reasoning being is because, number one, Liverpool are the only English team in my lifetime that I can think of that we played against, and they've actually like been going toe to toe with us and have not actually backed down. In fact, we drew 0-0 at Anfield. Got like the Kimmich shouting at Mane's face, celebrating the draw. And then you guys battered us in the second leg at the Allianz. So, and plus as well, just both Bayern and Liverpool, both got prestigious history in the UCL, and I just think you guys are gonna just put up a lot more of a fight than a lot of so-called other favourite teams in the Champions League. So I'll probably say like them.
Pot 3.
I mean, there's not really.
You already shot yourself in the foot because you chose Milan.
Yeah, we were literally, that's what we were bringing up. Is like,
yeah,
really, that's your biggest test here.
I'm just gonna go with Napoli.
Yeah, maybe.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's a
you're
tough
right.
place to go away there.
But I don't
Yeah.
think you can face Napoli, isn't it? If you face Milan, because you can't face the
Yeah,
same team from
he's just chosen Liverpool though. He's just chosen Liverpool as his other group.
The other one,
Oh.
preferred group. This is his nightmare group.
Right.
So
Yeah.
We'll move on to that in a second. Give us your pot four.
Again, because I've already said Rangers, Marseille.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really play a lot of teams in France. And just because, like, again, it just takes me back to, when you are like going through like all these teams like on the way to the Champions League final. Just takes me back to the road to the 2012 final where we beat them 4-0 in aggregate in the quarters. It's probably just a bit of nostalgia, really. Don't know whether that's meant to be a good thing or bad thing, but yeah.
That's it. Now we've got Anthony here. You can give us your Chelsea dream first, your dream draw for Chelsea.
So basically, we won't be able to face anybody from pot 2, isn't it? It would be pot 1.
No one from pot 2, no English clubs.
Yep. So, pot 1, you got Real Madrid, Man City, Bayern Munich. We probably would be facing one of those big guys.
I mean, that's not a given. It's literally your dream. So who could you possibly get? Let me remind you, I brought this up earlier. If you get Frankfurt, you can't get Borussia. So like it's one of those because no one can get anyone from their same country
in the first group.
Yeah, within the group stage. It's not possible. But don't take too long to think. Just what would you do? I probably wouldn't pick, obviously, the big dogs.
I would actually face Real Madrid, to be honest.
All right. Yeah.
I kind of want Real Madrid. I actually wanted Barcelona, to be fair. But yeah.
Okay, so Real Madrid from pot 1. That's your dream draw, is it?
Yeah. We
Okay.
seem to have a good record against Real Madrid.
Trying to help you out here, do you know what I mean? But all right then, Real Madrid then.
Can't get any other teams because
we beat them. We actually, the last 4 times we met them,
No,
we
you
beat
lost.
them 3
You definitely
times.
lost. You definitely lost.
We only lost.
You definitely
we
lost.
We only lost 1 game, bro, to them.
You definitely
We
lost to
won
Real
3
Madrid.
games. We won 3 games, but we never lost. Like we didn't lose all. Like we only lost 1 game to them.
We lost. You lost the one that was. Yeah, that was it. It was quite convincing as well, wasn't it? Unfortunately, in that game,
It was we only lost 1 game, so I would definitely face Real Madrid.
Fair enough.
So that's your dream out of AC.
Not Ajax, not Frankfurt, not Porto.
No, bro. I am not one of these people who cares about having the easiest draw. I want the best. That's what I want, basically, in the sense like I don't really care whether it's the easiest way or the hardest way. I just want my team to be the best. That's it.
The ultimate fence sitter. Okay, you're a brave man. So you get
you don't get a second trophy for a hard draw though. I will remind you of that. It's still worth just as many UCLs if it's easy or hard.
But that's the thing. It doesn't matter, isn't it? If you want to be the best, it doesn't matter.
Anthony, that is the biggest
time.
lie and fallacy. That is something my grandma would come up with. To be the best, you've got to be the best.
But that's the thing, bro.
You don't.
But that's the thing. You guys think that I think that I might want the easiest draw, but I actually don't. I am not that guy. I don't care about the draw.
That kind of was the point of this conversation.
But I don't want the easiest draw.
What is the easiest draw? And I think Josh is definitely supporting you here. Can you read that out for us?
I can't see.
LOL. Okay, that's fine.
Right, go on. Pot 3. Go on. Who you having out of pot 3 then? Who's your dream one out of pot 3?
Pot 3, I would take Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah, I hear that.
Because we have never beaten them. We always have a weird fucking game against Shakhtar. So it would be nice to meet them and see what happens.
Fair enough.
Didn't you beat him in 2012 in the group stage?
Once, bro. That's the problem. Once. Every time I remember, the last time we, like 2012, they beat us in Shakhtar because after that we went on to buy Willian.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is one.
And pot four, then go on. Who's your dream out of pot four?
Who the hell are these guys? After
Marseille,
and
Bruges, Celtic, Victoria Plzen, Maccabi Haifa.
After the first three, I have no idea who the hell the rest are. Where
Dinamo
is this?
Zagreb, Rangers, or Copenhagen?
Ooh, Copenhagen would be good. Not that far to travel as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Denmark. Yeah, that'll be a pretty decent group, to be fair. So that was Real, Chelsea, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Copenhagen. So go on then. What's your nightmare group? I assume that would be Ajax.
Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich.
I don't want to face Bayern Munich now.
That's
I would rather face them in the knockout stages, not in the group stages.
I mean,
Okay.
that's a lot
I
of
still have
respect for
nightmares.
us.
I have a lot of nightmares from Bayern Munich. So no,
that's what I was saying.
I don't want
both of the London clubs. It becomes difficult. It becomes really difficult to differentiate because Bayern Munich has such a good record against London clubs. Like they really do run London. So yeah,
Bayern Munich is very difficult to face for us. The only time we actually beat them was like in 2011 or something. After that, we have never won against Bayern Munich. Hence why I chose Real Madrid, because we beat them more than we lose to them. So that's fine.
Fair enough.
Quite tactical.
Yeah. In pot two.
Pot three.
Pot three. I wouldn't want to face Inter Milan for obvious reasons.
come on, why not? I understand.
No, because if by chance we fucking lose to them, that bald-headed bozo is gonna be like, I don't want that.
What about the loan agreement though? Can't you not face you in the Champions League?
You can in the Champions League. It's only in your own league that you can refuse them to play.
Oh, okay.
He's not cup tied. It's only if you're cup tied internationally. So
yeah.
Fair enough.
So certain Mr. Coutinho did that for you guys, didn't he?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I don't want that. Inter Milan, I don't want to face Inter Milan because of that reason. And from pot four, I would say not really. I have no problem with facing anybody in pot four. To be honest, not very competitive. I don't know whether that's the right way to say it or not, but certainly Celtic would be a difficult one to face compared to all the others in that pot, or Rangers, either Rangers or Celtic. I have no preference there.
I'd have said Marseille or Maccabi Haifa. Marseille just for the European nights, and Maccabi Haifa because it's absolutely miles away.
I don't know where Maccabi Haifa. I didn't know. I thought it was a bloody. I thought it was a nut.
No, Maccabi Haifa is football heritage. They were in the Champions League before a lot of these ones were even close to it.
Right.
Yeah, Israel.
Is this
just a long
Israeli
distance
club?
travel.
Yeah.
Israel, isn't it?
Yeah, Israel. Yeah.
Bloody hell, that's a weird bloody name. That's hence why I didn't know. So yeah, no, but for me, even though whatever it is, like I kind of don't like the Scottish teams to be facing, because those guys, they go hell for leather anyway. So
fair enough. On current form, Rangers would spank Chelsea. There we are. Brilliant. Right. Well, I think that's probably us for a wrap. What do you reckon, Jesse?
Yeah, we can do. I was just gonna go ahead and give these guys a chance, but only just let's try to cover.
Okay, yeah, we'll give it 6 minutes. We'll go up to an hour and a half.
Yeah, a couple minutes each. Who are you guys' dark horses? Because I promised that I would let Jamie do that. I don't think he cares, but dark horses. Who do you guys think would be your dark horse?
Do you want to go first, Anthony?
PSG, bro.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Who's yours, Jamie?
Who's mine? I'm trying to think of something different. I'm like this is. I'm just gonna go with Ajax Now, my reasoning is that I think their recruitment of like Calvin Bassey and the fact that they've mostly kept a lot of their core group, I think will definitely help them. And I also just think like, no one would expect much from them. It's just like different from the norm of like, PSG and all these other teams. So yeah.
Fair enough. Ajax for you. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good place to end it. Obviously, yeah, I said Chelsea. I don't understand why people are overlooking Chelsea. I think that they'll just have something to say later on in the season. They just need to get to the group stage, though. They need a good draw to get their SHIT together, and then to move on from there. But yeah, we'll see. That's about all I had. Dan.
Yeah.
100% brilliant. Well, boys, thanks very much, Jamie and Steve, for jumping on. Twisted, Josh, Phil, everyone who's come into the chat, we really, really appreciate your comments and obviously getting us involved. Had a good chat tonight. It's been interesting to look over all the group stages and there's a little chat about the Champions League with that kind of kicking off and just all the qualifiers being finished. The EFL Cup, the big boys enter. So we had a little chat about that to begin with. So yeah, so I really enjoyed it, boys. Listen, we'll be back again on Friday night, same time. We'll be doing our Premier League preview, looking over everything we're going to be expecting going forward in the within the Premier League this weekend, giving our predictions. And yeah, so listen, hopefully you can all catch us on Friday. Hit the like, hit subscribe, put your comments in. We'll always endeavour to have you involved. So if anyone can get involved, please do. We want you on the streams, on the chat. Thank you very much, chat, as always. But until Friday, thanks very much. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Ciao.